Recording in progress. All right, so second part, we're going to talk about what the assignment is. We'll go over a couple demos. I'll try and get through one of the interior and one of the exterior. It's going to be the opposite time of day, and it'll mostly be your choice. And I try and alternate every month, but sometimes classes like the same thing. But depending on what you guys choose today, if you're doing the opposite environment, you want to see a video, chances are I did it last month or the month before. All right, so a couple things to check before you open any scene, especially if you are getting files from somebody that you don't know. You don't know how old the files are. They may have come from another software package. You may have gotten them in as FBXs. OBJs, older version of Miocene files. Always check to make sure color management's checked on. That way, everything will look basically normal. Color management in your Maya preferences on the left side under categories, under color management, just make sure the button is enabled. That's all you have to do. Click Save. All right, so let's talk about what's going on today. So we already went over, we're going to be working with some dome lights, portal lights for the interior, whether it's day or night. Directional light, that's going to be our sun at some point. It's either going to be on the interior day or the exterior day. Mesh lighting, artificial lights that we're going to use in our environments. We're still going to be using the principles of light. It's going to be light direction, light intensity, light color, shadow quality, but in an environment. All right, so we already talked about the reading that's available. All right, now, normally under getting started, I would have you assign an AI standard material to all the geometry, and they all get the same color value. Today, we're going to be dealing with a little more light intensity, which is going to basically try to mimic the level of light intensity that we have in the real world. So consequently, we are going to be using a different color value than we have in the past. And they are going to be labeled inside the environment or the specific instruction document. Like I said, also verify color management's turned on. So you're going to choose either the interior day or the exterior day. Whichever one you choose to do, for the nighttime, you need to do the opposite environment. So if you choose to do the interior day, okay, that means you need to do the exterior night. If you choose to do the exterior day, then you do the interior night. The choice is yours, but in the end, it's going to be opposite time of day, opposite environment in both scenes. Does that make sense? Questions? You will also get a chance to create your own composition. This is going to be an environment slightly larger than you've done before. Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go find some photo reference on the internet for the type of composition and environment you would like to recreate. Use one of our scene files, either the interior or the exterior, day or night, doesn't matter, your choice. Whatever matches your reference. If you have a nighttime reference, then you're going to be doing a nighttime scene. Create a new camera, resolution gate, right? Couple of things you must have in there. You must have a dome light with an HDR image in it. Now, you can either use one of the HDR images that we've got for you, or you can go find your own, as long as it is an HDR image and you put it in a dome light. You're basically trying to capture the look and feel of your reference, but it's going to be an environment reference where you are responsible for using as many lights as you need, for trying to recreate the mood, the look and feel. Think about color temperature. What is the color temperature like in your reference? And you're going to also try to match that in your render. Now, for the MyComp, unlike the other versions of your composition that we had for you, you're going to be using a separate template. And that is because for today, you are not only doing a long shot, which is basically kind of like an establishing shot of an environment, you're also going to be doing a close-up that we have a camera set up for of a piece of that environment. So the reference we provide you, we've got long shot of the Zen garden, and then there's a close-up of the still life on the table. For the interior, there's a long shot of the environment, basically a living room shot. Then there's a close-up of the computer desk. Now, the good news is if you've done your lighting correctly, you're only lighting the scene once, but you're just doing two different renders because the lighting will work for the close-up shot if you've done it correctly in the long shot. Does that make sense? Questions? Anything unclear? All right, now, like I said, you've got two spots in your template for renders. One's a long shot, one's the close-up. For the MyComp, you're only doing a single render because obviously your composition that you find the reference for is only going to be a single piece. So let me show you a couple examples of the MyComp stuff. Right. So the idea is, again, look and feel, camera angle, composition, placeholder geometry. Could be simple. Could be a little more complicated. You can use as many lights as you need. Right. Hopefully that gives you enough of an idea as to what you can do. Interior, exterior, doesn't matter, your choice. Need a dome light in it, need an image in that dome light, and then the rest is up to you for the composition and the staging and the final render. All right, any questions about what the assignment is? Like the overall part? Okay. All right, so the instructions. There's the interior day. This will take you to a Word doc, very similar to what we had set up for project 4. Now, You'll notice that we've got the instructions here: assign a AI standard to all the geometry, base weight at 1, base color value. Instead of being 0.5, it is now 0.18. Specular weights 0. For the interior, we're going to be sending you to HDRI Hub to get the dome light. Now, unfortunately, the link did not take in this PDF. I have to figure out why. But what you can do is copy it. And let's go to a new tab and paste it in. And it should take you to HDR Hub. No, I don't want to subscribe. So this says it's an it's an 8K image, but realistically it's not, but that's all right. I'm not going to look a free HDR image weirdly. All right, so free commercial. Make sure you read if you plan on using this commercially, for money. Make sure you read about how that works. All right, so there's a couple of find a high resolution version, a higher res. Well, the one they give us is fine. If you want to go for the higher, go ahead. I've just taken what they give us. So just click the download button. It's about 50 megabytes. Fortunately, Full Sail's Wi-Fi seems to be pretty good today. And this is what you'll get. Now, inside this folder, README doc, take a look at that. There's URL links. Don't really need those once you have read everything. So inside the HDR 111 parking lot 2 folder, you'll see a bunch of stuff. Anything that says JPEG is garbage, get rid of it. We're not using JPEG files. I don't care how pretty they look. There's a thing called IBL. I think that's for 3D Studio Max. It does not work with Arnold. It doesn't work with RenderMan. It doesn't work with V-Ray. It doesn't really work in Maya. Get rid of it. All right, having done that, we are left with 2 HDR images. Which one do you use? Well, there's one here that the dimensions are 512 by 256. Then the other one, the dimensions are 5120 by 2560. So here's the first one. And then here's the second one. Which one do you think you use? Yes. You'd be surprised how many people don't pay attention and use the first one. I mean, that might be okay if you're going into like substance and you want that kind of blurry environment sphere, just to be able to see what light looks like reflected off of a shiny surface. But that is way too small to be able to use in a render. So that one is garbage. That is basically not even a half resolution. So this one is basically a 5K image. Looks like it's blown out here, but that's the sunlight. This will work out really well for kind of our skyline out the window, which is really what we're interested in. This is pretty much going to be what we see outside the window. The fact that it's a big giant parking lot doesn't really matter. So that is the image to use. That is also noted inside the instructions. This is the one to use. That has to get put into your source images folder. So make sure you download the interior. There's that. And make sure you download the Zen Garden and also the MyComp templates. All right, so let me get rid of all these zip files. I can always re-download it if I need it. All right, so here's the templates. This is for your MyComp. There are going to be two different templates because the format for the exterior is going to be a little bit different than the format for the interior. Format for the interior is our standard half HD, 960 by 540, but the outside is more of a square aspect ratio, which would be, this is the HD version, it says 960 540. Up top is the square version, squarer, it's 816 by 612. So depending on which scene you use for the exterior, if you choose to use that for the MyComp, that's going to be the 816 by 612. If you choose to do an interior MyComp, then that's going to be the 960 by 540. All right, so here's our interior. For the interior, Maya project folder, this is where you're going to be dropping this HDR image. Goes into your source images folder, inside your Maya project folder, inside source images. All right, here's your Photoshop template. Reference images are in there. If you choose to do the night version of the interior, well, your reference is going to be on a different layer in Photoshop. Just make sure you turn off the layer you're not using. Everybody comfortable with doing that after, the first 3 exercises? Okay. So for the interior, we give you 2 sets of reference images. We get daytime, and there is also nighttime. Now, the daytime, the workflow is a little bit different than the night. The daytime scene uses 2 dome lights in it. One dome light is to get the actual intensity of the light, and the other dome light is to get the actual visual brightness of the image. Because if I stuck the image inside the dome light that we use just for sheer intensity and energy, it would blow that image out. You wouldn't be able to see anything. So we use 2 separate dome lights, 2 different purposes. The 2 together create the final look of the scene basically without the sun. So we give you lighting, they're not really breakdowns, they're kind of additive. So basically the first reference is the first dome light with portals in it, and it's not visible. There's nothing outside. But this is the amount of energy we want from that dome light pouring in to the environment. The second is adding the dome light, another dome light with the image in it, rotating it around, and then increasing the intensity to basically get the image outside the window to look like it does in a natural photo, kind of blown out outside and kind of bright inside. But you'll notice, remember, lighting's additive, so that does add a little bit extra light in there. You can see that we've got light coming in through the windows. There's a little bit of sunlight. but not enough to really look like it's actual sunlight. So we add in a directional light on top of, basically on top of that visible dome light to kind of bring it to life there. Now, if you've done this and gotten this result, the close-up is just a matter of you changing cameras and rendering. The lighting's done. Now, the reason we're focusing in on this is because this will eventually become a point of focus when we get into texturing. This is where you're going to be adding a lot more detail that's going to be visible to the camera, the render camera, because in a long shot, you know, it's pretty much level of detail. Everything's pretty far away from the camera. Can't really see little minute details, cracks, imperfections, scratches, scrapes, but you can in a close-up. So also a couple of positional guides here, just basically to let you know where the portal lights are, where the directional light is, kind of an overhead view, just so you get an idea of where things lay. So this is an actual full-blown environment. It's got a living room, it's got a foyer, it's got a kitchen. Now the nighttime, same scene file, but different set of reference. For this, we're using a different HDR image. Let me close the HDR hub. Let me close that dock. So for the interior night, separate set of directions, separate link to get a different nighttime image. So let me copy this link. All right, so just go download now. So just like with the daytime HDR that you got from HDRI Hub, this one contains the same README file. Get rid of all the stuff outside that folder. Inside the folder, you'll get something called backplates. Those are just individual plates that could be used. They're JPEGs. We don't need those. Get rid of them. Unless, of course, you want to use them later on in some other project, which is fine. Get rid of the IBL and get rid of any JPEG you got in there. Well, JPEGs are not useful for rendering. They are not quality enough. So yes, I recommend getting rid of stuff you don't want. But if you want to hang on to them, that's fine. Just don't confuse them with useful files, and don't put them in your Maya project folder and source images. So we're left with two HDRs like we were for the day. And again, the question is, which one do we want? We want the little one that's blurry, or do we want this one? Yeah, the big one. So get rid of the 512 by 256. So this is a 4K file. Pretty good. This goes into your folder. Actually, it goes into your Maya project folder in source images. All right, so there's the interior right here. There's the Maya project folder, and there's source images. So I'm going to throw it in there. Now, you are not required to do the interior day and the interior night. I'm just getting both in case you guys choose the one I didn't get. But honestly, go get them and save it for some other project, because free HDRs are always good to have laying around. All right, so this one uses a single dome light because we're not using any energy from the outside, really. Basically, nighttime, light coming in through a window is going to be really, really minimal. So the first image here is the original dome light with the image in it, with the default light intensity, and it's got the rotation that you can use. You're going to rotate it so you get this big street light outside the window. Next, we're going to adjust the intensity of it because it's nighttime and you're not going to be seeing that much light coming in through the window, especially when we have the lights on in the room. So once you get those two done, then we're going to light all those recessed bulbs in the ceiling. Those are all going to become a single mesh and a single mesh light. Because it's really a pain if you've got 18 separate intensities to play with. You just want to select all the bulbs, combine them into a mesh, assign a single mesh light, single control, single off-on slider switch, makes it so much nicer. Right, so that's the first thing we set up is the recessed ceiling lights. Then we add in the arm lamp lights. We turn the TV on. Nothing on TV but some snow. We're also going to add the light over the desk, and then the computer is going to be on, but not as bright as the TV. So that is the final lighting for the nighttime long shot. And then if you've done all your lighting correctly here, select the close-up camera, and all you have to do is render this out. The lighting will be done. Questions? All right, so all those steps that I just kind of blew through are right here. Take your time, read the docs. They should walk you through pretty much everything you need to do. So now for the Zen garden, which is our exterior, for this, you don't have to go anywhere to get the HDR. We provide it for you. Like I said, we have the environment here on campus, and we went out and actually took the HDR image. So here's the Zen garden. You get a Maya project folder. Inside source images, there is your Zen garden HDR. And if you look really closely, I'm here hiding behind the dumpster with Joe Brandibus, who had the camera. So we went out and shot this. Where are we? Right here. All right, so this is the actual Zen garden. The reason we didn't take the HDR over there is because the environment is already there, and it would look stupid to have all the environment when we've modeled it. So we needed an area that had the same, basically the same background that the Zen garden had, without the environment, without the geometry, without the buildings. This way, everything that's in there reflects because it's our environment. All right, I'm here. And there's Joe. It's his camera. You can see we're kind of pointed. He's got a 360 HDR camera, which made it really nice. So we provide that for you. Templates, same deal. There's your daytime template. Open up this in Photoshop. Your nighttime is on a separate layer. Turn off the day if you're doing the night. All right, so we give you 3 sets of reference. Here is the actual photo reference I gave to Frank. to model from, plus Frank used to run out back and go look at it as he was modeling. So this is just kind of a side view. This is actually the view we chose for the environment render. So this is where we got all the shadows from, the lighting. That environment back there is very similar to what we have in our HDR. It's got the fence, it's got the palm trees, the conifers back there. This was actually shot in November, so that's kind of fall, winter morning light coming out. It's 10:30 in the morning. And that's basically the shadow directions we're going for. But we provided all this for you just so you could have an idea of what the actual environment is like. But again, I highly encourage you to take a walk around out back behind building 4D. So this is actually, that little doorway there is where my office used to be. Well, it still is. It's just that nobody works in the offices anymore since COVID. Go over and visit once in a while. I like flowers at my desk. Anyway, this brand new building over here is 4D. That's kind of like the executive office building. So they built a real nice Zen garden that we take advantage of. And students more than welcome to go back there. It's not just for staff. I also provided you with some idea as to where the lights are for nighttime. So these are super bright halogen lights you will see all across all the buildings in the back. And they provide quite a bit of light. Now, this is a panorama of the Zen garden at night. So you get an idea of where we got the lighting for the night from. So this is basically the overhead light that's going to provide most of the illumination for the nighttime. We've also got little trees here. Notice we've got there's another light over here that wasn't turned on at that time. But basically, there are some lower lights. So this is a lower backlight behind the camera. This would be a left fill. And this would be a right fill here. Then you can see, we get quite a bit of light on there. It happened to rain. We weren't able to shoot an actual HDR at night, but the same HDR image works for day or night. You just have to turn down the intensity. But you get an idea of what the environment kind of looks like at night. All right, so as far as daytime goes, the exterior day is basically dome light with image. You're going to have to rotate the dome light in X, Y, and Z to have it line up with the image. Then the intensity of the dome light. And then we need to add the sun in. So with that, it should more or less match the final shot we have here. Obviously, minus the materials in there. No, I hate you. I really don't want to open it with preview. There we go. Okay, so that's close enough. You get an idea of where we got the lighting from. Oh, yeah. So there's the long shot. And then if you've done your lighting correctly, the close-up, you shouldn't have to make any adjustments. The only thing you might find is, well, maybe I can tweak those sun shadows a little bit better now that I've got a close-up of where they are. But other than that, it should be done. A couple of positional guides. It's really not much there other than the dome light and where the directional light is. All right, for nighttime, a little bit different. We've got our same dome light set up, but we need to adjust the intensity because it's going to be darker. Pretty hard to see, but there is a little bit of light in the sky. The main light is going to be that overhead light that I showed you in the panoramic. Then there's the lower fill light behind the camera. Then there's the fill light on the left for the tree, fill light on the right for the other tree when it's on. And that's pretty much the rough outline of all the lights minus the close-up. Now, when we do the close-up, this is where we're going to add in the mesh lights for those little LED flames. Because it's a lot easier to get it than it is. It's a lot easier to get the intensity and the color temperature in the close-up than it is far away. But don't worry, once you do the close-up, then you're going to take another shot of the long. This is actually your final long shot render. And that's the one you're going to turn in. But this is everything done except for the candles. And that's, like I said, we do in the close-up and then just take another long shot render. So this will be your final long shot render. This will be your final close-up render. So you get an idea of where the lights are relative to the environment. Like I said, this one's pretty far away. It's behind, it's up. All right, so I think we got everything here. All right, so let's see, which daytime one should we demo? Interior, I heard a couple interior days. So if we do interior day, we're going to do exterior night. All right, so interior day, let's get the dock up. Let's fire up Maya. Let me turn off my talking head because I'm going to start rendering and that's going to really slow everything down. So first thing I want to do is set my project. All right, so let's set project. Got to go to downloads, interior, Maya project folder. And then, like I said, there's only one file. It's day or night for the interior. So when I open this up, don't worry about the error if you get this, because there's some old nodes left over in there. All right, I normally like to go, so you'll notice under panels, perspective, there are two render cams. There is one for the living room, that's your long shot. These are not locked. So you can accidentally move these cameras around. Now, if you move it around, there's a bookmark for it. So if you move it around and go, oh crap, how do I get back? Under View, Bookmarks, they'll take you right back to the shot. If you feel better about it, then by all means lock the camera. Just select the camera, go into the channel box, just select all the transforms and just lock them. Same thing for the close-up. Close-up takes you here. It's not locked, but there is a bookmark for it. So just make sure you go to the bookmark before you render. This way, all your renders will be the same. All right, so with that done, let me do a save as, because this is going to be daytime. So this does take a couple of seconds to write. Don't worry about it. Like I said, I like to work in perspective so I can see where everything is. All right, so let's go through the docs. So I set my project, I opened it up, I did a save as. Now I need to assign a new AI standard material to all the geometry in there. I could do that by marqueing it. I can also go into the outliner, select the apartment, select the bottles, select the arm lamp. That's all the geometry. Once I've done that, Shift T, that's going to bring up assign new material, Arnold shader, AI standard. I can select any piece of geometry now. And let's make sure the base weight is 1. Yes, it is. Base color value 0.18. That's right here. By default, it's 0.8. We want it to be 0.18. Going to be a little grayer than we're used to. And then specular weight to 0. We want no reflectivity in here. So once you've done that, hit save. And this scene will use 2 dome lights. So one dome light will use 4 portal lights. That'll be the brightness of the environment. The second dome light will control the brightness of the image that we put into the dome light. So first dome light, we're going to create. It's a sky dome. We're going to rename it, keep the same name, but say non-visible. We're going to turn off visibility to the camera. And then once we do that, we're going to create the portals that will then take over putting the light into the environment through the windows rather than being calculated in 360 degrees. All right, so let's try this out. We're going to create a sky dome. There we go. So if I render this out as is, let's go and use the living room camera. Oh, Arnold, you don't pay attention. There we go. All right, so the default intensity, as you can see, does not let a whole lot of light into the environment. In fact, that is laughably anemic looking. Now, we're not going to worry about getting the intensity yet. What we want to do is make it so that we don't see the white outside the window. So remember, all lights have visibility to the camera. You have to go under the light attributes, go down to Arnold. In this case, it is an Arnold light. And where it says visibility to camera, turn that to 0. Looks very eerie, looks post-apocalyptic, but there is light coming in now, but we don't see the light. We just see the effect of the light. All right, so now what we need to do is create 4 portal lights to place over the windows and doors. So there's 2 windows here that are visible to the camera. There's a door window and there's a kitchen window. Now, you might say to yourself, well, why do we care about what we can't see in the camera? Well, they are still going to contribute light into the scene. That door is going to come from the right. The kitchen window light is going to add light behind the sofa and behind the camera. It's going to add more light in here. Now, what I want to do as a matter of exercise is let's bring the reference in, and I want to take a look at what the scene looks like before I add the portals, trying to get the intensity. So I'm going to add file, open image. Here's my reference images. Here's my dome light. So you can see I got a ways to go as far as intensity goes. So let me just crank it up. Let's go. Well, that's not nearly as bright as I thought. Now, ideally, when I'm doing this, I really don't need to render the entire scene. What I'm looking at is areas that really are affected by the brightness of the light. So let's kind of do this area. You have to make sure, Gaetano, that you have the attribute editor or the channel box layer editor set up on the side. All right, so let's just render that out. Let's crank up the intensity even more. What was that? Oh, bless you. Huh. Sound like somebody dropping something. Okay. All right, so I turned it up. I got it up. I don't think it's as high as I need it yet. But what I want to show is what happens. There we go. So this is my render with just the dome light. Now I'm going to add portals and show you why we use portal lights when we're dealing with this much energy. All right, now, in order to add portal lights, you need to select the dome light and then click the Create Portal Light, or they call it a light portal. So when I do that, it creates a new portal light here, gives me portal light shape, but I don't get any controls. That's because that portal light is now controlled by the dome. Think of it as a kind of a slave to the dome light. Now, when you create a portal light looks an awful lot like an area light. But the main difference is it's got no controls. No, this is the portal light that I created. It looks like an area light, but it's got no controls of its own. Everything is controlled by the dome light. If you create an area light, it's not going to be attached to the dome. It's not going to do anything. So you make sure you select the dome light, then click the Create Light Portal button. It's always going to drop in anything you create by default at the center of the world. All right, so our job is to take this portal light, stick it outside the window. We want to scale it so it covers the window. Pretty simple to do. You can make it a little bit wider, a little bit bigger than a window, because you don't want to be inside there and then see a break between the light and the actual window itself. So now, if I render this out, I'll only have one light source coming in through the window. Question? It doesn't really cancel it. The dome light, when you make a portal, automatically disables its visibility and sends it to the portal. That's why I've only got one portal made. I've only got light coming in through one window. But the main point of this is, look at the difference between the noise without the portal light. Look on the right side here. Look how much noise. And then the noise is degrade. I mean, there's not as much noise, and it's not as big of a patch of noise as it was without the portal. Now, here's another reason that you want to make sure that your light covers the window. So if I move it over, notice it's kind of limiting its visibility. So you want to make sure it covers the window enough where you can't see any breaks in it. Not very bright yet because I don't have all my light in. A lot less grain, a lot less noise. Now, resist the temptation to duplicate portal lights. Maya and Arnold do not like duplicated lights at all. Just select the dome and create a new portal. That new portal is going to drop in at the center of the world, drag it outside, position it in front of the other window. Scale it up. That's all you have to do. Now, when I render this again, now I've got light coming in through both windows. So you can see still much less noise because of those portals, because we're not calculating 360 degrees of light. We're only calculating the portals themselves. So we got two more to add. The next one we create is going to go outside the door window here. That's going to add a little bit of side light over here. And then the next one that we do is going to be the kitchen. And that's going to add a little bit of light here to the back of the sofa. All right, so again, same process. Select the dome light, create a new portal, drops in at the center of the world. Got to come outside here. Now this one we're going to have to rotate because we need the pointer to aim inward to the window. All right, and it's basically going to be like negative 90 degrees. There we go. And you want to scale it. Just like we did with the windows, only make it as big as you actually need it. And I can go a little closer. You don't want to get it too close so the geometry is touching, but get it close enough. So now if I render this out, I should get a little more light coming in from the side. So now, side of the sofa here, a little more light. Every little, remember, lighting's additive. So every one of those little portal lights, we are actually adding some more light in. It's all dome light, but we're adding more in. All right, so the last one is going to be the kitchen. Select the dome, create a new portal. That one gets translated to the window. This one's pretty simple because it's 180 degrees. The little pointer's going the opposite direction. Want to rotate it around. Let's scale it, just like we did to the front windows. You can move it in a little bit. That should be okay. Be a little taller. All right, so now all 4 portals are in there. Let's do a render and see what we get. All right, still very noisy, but you can see that kitchen light adds quite a lot more light than you actually would think it would. So this is what it looks like with a bare dome light, no portals. And then this is the dome, same dome light, same intensity, but with the portal lights added. Significantly less noise in there. Well, there's still noise, but it's the noise clusters are not as close together. All right, now, bottom line is, how close are we to getting the intensity here? And for that, this is where you're going to have to start dialing in some quality to figure out, all right, I need to start cranking up my samples a little more. I also probably at some point want to throw on the denoiser so I can see what it looks like compared to the reference. But let's crank up the quality a little just in that little area. Make sure we get Arnold. Oh yeah, and make sure you save your scene because after all, it is Maya. All right, let's go 4 and 4 just for now. See if that helps. Try not to have it take too long, but just to get an idea of where we stand with the quality. Not quality, but intensity. So it looks pretty close. Just looking in this area here. Looking on the desk, looking on the wall, looking on that chair. Looks pretty close. Now, if I want to, I can try and throw on that denoiser. Yeah. Let's try it. Why not? Let's stack more time on it. I still expect it to be a little splotchy, but it's splotchy, but at least I get an idea. Oh, for every single render you do. You should, that's why we went over it in the first exercise, because everything you turn into us should have enough camera AA and diffuse samples and then be denoised on top of it. Now, the only reason I threw this on here was to smooth it out. It's really splotchy. It's not really giving me, complete idea, but it's pretty close. That looks pretty good. Now, I'm going to remove my denoiser only because I don't want it kicking in every time I do something. Save my scene file. All right, so basically we did this step right here. So now we need to create another dome light. This one's going to have the image that we got, that parking lot image. So now let's go do that. Close that. And actually, let's rename this like I'm supposed to. Should be non-visible. Non-visible, there we go. Non-visible, second dome light's going to be basically sky dome light underscore HDR. So create another dome light. In the dome light attributes, we're going to plug that dome light image, the HDR, into the color attribute of the dome light. All right, so again, our image, our HDR image is going to go into that new dome light. Let's rename this one underscore HDR. Click that little color checker button. That'll bring up the create render node. You want 2D texture and you want file. In the file node, this is where you go find your dome light image that you downloaded. Should take you into source images. And here's the parking lot image. So we click open, give it a couple seconds. There it is. Don't worry about the fact that it doesn't look all that good in the viewport. It's only the renderer that we really care about. So let's go in, take a look. And let me rotate this a little. No, we want to go the other way. I want that building. Oh, maybe I do want to go the opposite way. No, let me put it back to 0, just in case. There we go. I suspect I should go, let me go back to 0 again. Let me go the opposite direction. That's the only attribute I want to rotate. Let's go negative. Ah, there we go. There's my building right there. Kind of hard to see, but that's my building. All right, so let's bring up the dock. Let's load our reference image in. We clean all this mess up. Let's load the new reference. And I'm just going to do a render, a crop area. Now, the first time I hit the render button, it may take a second or two to calculate. What it's doing is converting that HDR image into something that's kind of like pre-processed. There it is. So you can see I got to rotate this a little more. Let's see. Do I want to go? Let's go this way. Oh, wrong direction. Let's try that. Closer. It's moving a little bit. Let's see. Looking at that little window pane there. Okay, that looks pretty good. Got the image in. So now the next reference image is how bright do I need to make that image? So I need to load the second reference in, or actually my third. That's going to be this one. All right, now when I turn the intensity up, it's going to be for the sky dome light with the HDR. So sky dome light HDR. We hit the render button. Obviously, it's got to be brighter. But how much brighter? Now, as I add brightness into this image, it's also going to add to the brightness of the first dome light. So the two of those together are going to give us that final look. So usually when I can't figure out how bright something is, I'll usually double it just to look at it. If it's not bright enough, I'll add a little more or maybe double it again. Or if it's too bright, I'll cut it back or I'll cut it in half. And just try and kind of hone in using smaller increments. But this one looks pretty close. All right, so let me get rid of that crop. Let's render the whole thing. If it works okay, I'm actually going to see, I should see a little bit of a light pattern here next to the sofa and hitting the sofa where that little bit of sun in that dome light is going to cast enough light in here. Anybody got any questions so far? Waiting on this? Any Zoom questions?
No, sir.
Okay. Actually, let me stop this and let me just do the floor area here and see. Because I really don't need everybody to wait around while it renders the whole thing. There we go. Yep, I got a little patch of light there. Okay, that's good. All right, so matches outside the window, matches that little patch on the ground. That's pretty good. Next, we need to add a directional light in. This is going to basically sweeten the light that's already there, make it look like there's really sunlight pouring in through the window. Let me get rid of these reference images and load in the new one. This is really where I want to focus anyway here. Well, all right, just leave it alone. All right, now to place the sun, well, the sun is basically a directional light. All right, so we want to place the directional light in, match it. We also want to add in just a little bit of softness to the sun shadows. And that means turning the angle in the directional light to 0.5. So let's create the light first. And honestly, this light could be anywhere, but I prefer to put it outside near the window where I can kind of visualize the angle of the light based on the icon. So create lights, directional light. Let's go to perspective. There it is. Let's pull it outside. Oops, wrong outside. Let's go out front. There we are. All right, so it is kind of small. I'm actually going to scale the icon up a little bit just so it's easier to work with in this environment. And I'm also going to use those guides that I have set up for you guys. All right, so that kind of gives me an idea of where it is. This one is what I'm interested in. All right, so it's angled kind of that way. You can definitely see it's tilted down a little. So let's rotate this a little bit this direction. And let's assume that the light's got to be aimed down a little. And let's see what we get. Now, if I can't see any light in the scene, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up my directional light intensity a lot. I want to exaggerate it so I can actually see where it is. Because right now I'm not seeing anything. So let me be ridiculous and go like 10. Ah, there we go. Getting a little bit of light here. All right, let's be more ridiculous there. Well, that was too ridiculous, even for me. Okay, there we go. Now I can see it clearly. All right, so what I need to do is have it hit the ground. So I think I need to aim it down a little bit more. Ah, there we are. Okay, so little much. Looks like I need to rotate it a little bit to the side. Uh, all right, let's see. Let's try rotating them Y a little bit. No. Okay, that's not too bad. Closer. A little bit off. Um, let's see. X. Let's try that. Hmm. Ah, that's better. Shouldn't have been negative. That's what the problem was. No, wait, let's go back. All right, close enough for now. Go back and tweak that later. Really needs to come back a little more. Let's spend all hour here doing that, but just trying to dial it in a little bit closer. Let's see what that looks like for the bottom over here on the side. Yep, probably want to use the side lights here as a guide also, because that'll tell me the elevation of the light probably a little bit better. All right, so just going to try to abbreviate this. You guys get the idea, right? Dial in the sunlight. Now, if you've done everything correctly, in the end, your close-up should match reasonably well. So let's change cameras and go to the close-up. Now it's taking a little longer because I do have 4 and 4 set up for my render settings. All right, yeah, that's pretty good. You guys get the idea. All right. Like I said, follow the doc, you should get the same results. All right, so for the nighttime, since that's what we're going to do now, this one not nearly as difficult, only because we're only using a single dome light and there are no portals. There is no directional light, obviously. It will take a bit of fussing around to get the right angle of the, or I should say the right rotation for the dome, but not impossible. So let me save this. Don't forget, this is a separate project folder, so you must set your Maya project to a different project folder. It's going to be the Zen Garden instead of the interior. There's the Zen Garden, there's your Maya project folder. When you open this up, there are 2 files. The day does not have the candles in it. The nighttime is the one you need. All right, so let's open up the nighttime, which is what we're doing. Don't worry about the error messages. So you'll notice that the table setting is not visible. You must turn it on in the display layers. If you forget to do that, it's not going to show up. Turn it on. I like to work in perspective just so I can grab everything in one shot. Okay, I'm going to do a save as. Select all the geometry and assign a new AI standard surface, base weight at 1, color value 0.18, spec weight to 0. All right, so I can do that a couple of ways. Select the Zen Garden scene group, I need to also select the driveway, the curb, and the table group. I can also just marquee select everything. Do Shift T, create a new AI standard surface. Base weight at 1, base color value 0.18, and specular weight 0, no shiny objects. Let's make sure color management is on just for fun. Good, it is. Let's save. And let's start working. All right, so we're going to create a sky dome light. We've already supplied the HDR image for you, so that should be pretty easy. So first, sky dome light. Let's go into the render cam for this. To add an image to your sky dome light, in the sky dome light attributes under color, we click the checker button. Create render node, we want a 2D texture file. In the file node that's created, this is where we add the dome light, or I should say the HDR image for the dome light. Now, if you set your project correctly, remember it is a separate project folder, it should take you to your source images. Give it a couple seconds. There it is. So we're going to have to rotate it in X, Y, and Z. And let's load the reference in so we can start playing around with that. Now, the aspect ratio of this is going to be a little bit different. It's a little more square. Now, to add the reference, File, Open Image, in the Arnold Render View, Zen Garden. All right, come on, File, Open Image. Oh, right, we don't want source images. We want to go to the reference. Reference images, don't want photo. I want the nighttime. There it is. All right, so this little cloud is what I usually use right here. This little shape kind of reminds me of Mexico. There's the Gulf of Mexico. There's Florida there. Just kind of reminds me, just a very visible shape for me to grab onto. So let's see where that is. There it is right there. That shape. So where is that in my camera? So I'm going to select the dome light and let's rotate that down. Or no, up. There we are. There it is right there. All right, so for the reference, for now, I'm just going to do this real quick in the viewport. Kind of rotate it around this way. It's like I also need to rotate it a little bit this way. Let's render that and see how far off we are. Not horrible. All right, so let's start dialing it in. This one I definitely like to do, rotating it. All right, so X, which one is X? X is side to side. That side to side's not too bad. A little bit off. Y, that's rotating around. That shouldn't be too bad either. And then Z. Nope, that's the wrong direction. That's a little better. Let's rotate. Too much. Not enough. Yeah, it looks like I just need to rotate it. Looks like it's an X. Nope. Okay, that looks pretty close. X, Y, and Z. I'm going to keep that. All right, so next reference, that's going to be the intensity of the dome light. It's nighttime, so it's going to be pretty dark. Let's get that second reference going. All right, now for dome light intensity, like I said, I usually like to try and like half it to see where I'm at. That's definitely too bright. Let's take it down even more. Definitely going in the right direction. Don't be afraid of having like really low numbers or really high numbers. Still too bright. All right. Wow. It's really hard to see up there. There's a little bit of light up here in the sky. Very, very little. That's pretty close. All right. So now we're going to start adding in the lights. So this is going to be that upper building area light. And let's get an idea of where this thing's going to go. All right, so that's the one up there. And there it is here. So let me do the overhead first. Looks like it's kind of far away. It's a little bit aimed here. All right, let's take this. Let's go to perspective. Okay, I'm going to create an Arnold area light. Remember, any area light you make sure they're AI Arnold area lights. All right, so Arnold area light. And let's just rotate it a little. Kind of aim it in that direction. And let's hit render. Well, first, let's not be ridiculous. Let's load in the reference to find out what's going on. Okay, I got a ways to go yet. Let's see. Definitely needs to be rotated a little bit, I think. Let's see. Could go up a little higher. Wait, that's not higher. That's over. Oh, that helped. Happy accident. It's going in the right direction. Too far. Translate this up. Yeah, let's go up a couple of units. Let's go back one here. All right, getting closer. All right, let's rotate this. All right, that looks pretty close. What do you think? How about the intensity? What's that? Yeah, I kind of agree. It's really missing that bright pop. All right. No, I don't think I want to make it twice as bright. Nope, definitely not that. Let's knock that in half. Let's go 1500. Still a little too bright. All right, that's pretty close. All right, let's get rid of this other reference. Let's keep that one. Let's load in the next one, which is going to be that lower area light. A little bit of the light behind the camera. All right, so that one's going to be closer and lower. Okay, I can do that. First off, let's make a new Arnold area light. Let's make sure it's pointed in the right direction. It does look like it. And let's see, where's it at? So it's off to the left of the camera. Also, it looks like it's back behind the camera a little further. Oh, I know what's wrong with that. That should be right about here. To the side. Looks a little too high. Should be lower. Let's try that. Let's give it some intensity. Too much intensity. And also, let's label these lights. Geez. All right. That's the upper key. This one is the lower fill. All right, that light definitely needs to come over some more. Yeah, it's got to come over here. Let's see where we're at there. No, let's do this. Too low. Hmm. Also trying to look at those very faint shadows on the ground. Kind of hard to see. It looks like I kind of got the light okay. All right, let's save. Let's put some of those side lights in there and then we can do a mesh light. All right, so for these, they're going to be point lights off to the sides. Lower back, we did that. All right, point light for the left. Then we need a point light for the right. Over there, okay. Create light point. Let's go over here. Let's load the reference in. Wrong reference. Let's crank up some intensity. And let's make sure it's not in the ground like it is. There we go. It's always a good idea. It's a little bright. Not bright enough, of course. All right, let's see. All right, let's make another one. It's pretty close. I want to kind of move this along. So I make sure we get to adding in the mesh lights. So for this other one, that's probably going to be the same intensity mirrored over on the other side. Let's create this. Let's pull it down. I have that one at, oh, let's go 3. It's a nice even number. Let's go 1. Let's go -13. Just to keep it all whole numbers. Good. And that should work out okay. So now for this one, should be 13 because it's opposite side. Should be still 3 because that's should be y. And then that one should be 1. And what did I make this one? How bright? 70. Let's do the same thing over here. All right, so that matches pretty well. All those lights in the Zen garden, all those tree lights are pretty much the same. So if you get one of them right, the other one, you can use the same settings on. All right, so now let's zoom in on a close-up. Now, this does not have 2 cameras. This only has bookmarks, kind of like Project 1, where you only had 1 render cam, but you had multiple bookmarks. So the render cam here, if you want a close-up, you have to go to View, Bookmarks, Close-up. And again, these cameras are not locked, so just go back to the bookmark if you move anything. So let's load our close-up in. There we go. Let's render that. Now, this is where we do our mesh light wizardry. So all of these little LED bulbs, let me go into perspective. Need to get selected. And where are they at? They're in a group, table setting. Candle. So there's flame 2. That's flame 1. Flame 4. And flame 3. So select all the flame geometry. You can do it like I did in the viewport, or come down here. If you're in the outliner and you want to select them, you have to hold down Command on the Mac to grab them. 1, 2, 3. Where am I missing one? Down here. Somehow it wound up down there. All right, so you should have 4. And don't forget, with an Arnold mesh, if you want to control more than one piece of geometry with a single mesh light, you need to first combine them. If you forget that, it's in the instructions. So in order to assign one Arnold mesh light to multiple meshes, you need to combine it. So with them selected, go to Mesh in the modeling tool set, go to Combine. And once you do that, there it is. Gives you a brand new single mesh. And that is basically what we convert into a mesh light. So if you accidentally select it, just select that new piece of geometry that's combined. Click the Create Mesh Light button. And now you've got a mesh light for all the candles. Now, don't forget, is the mesh visible to the camera by default? There's your answer. Don't forget, you need to turn on make it visible. Here under Maya, it's called the light visible button. Once you click that, then the mesh is visible. Okay, that is not in the docs. So with that on, the lights are visible. And now we can go on our merry way of trying to match this. So a couple of things going on here. First, we got to get the intensity. What else do you notice? Yeah, color temperature. So let's turn that on. And let's start playing with intensity. So let's crank it up. And when you're working with intensity, I usually like to use the cup edge and the bottle as kind of my guide. If you can get them to be as bright in your render as they are in the reference, you're pretty close. That's too much. I found the limits. Still way too much. Now, color temperature, we want it to be warmer. Which direction we going? Say? Up, down, sideways? Down. Down. So we're going down. Let's try, well, let's try 5,000 first. No, let's go 6,000. Well, definitely not enough. Let's try 5. Now we're coming into the right area. Looks like I need a little more intensity. Or do I? Kind of hard to tell. Those mesh lights are pretty noisy. You know what? Let me turn that down just a little bit. Let's see what we get. Go down a little bit more. That looks a little better. And let's just work this area right here. Mesh lights are going to be noisy, unfortunately. So they are going to take a bit of doing to get the noise down, but worth it. All right, so not bad. That's pretty close to being the right intensity. Color temperature is pretty close. So let's load in that last long shot and see how we did. And let me change my camera here. Go back to the render cam and let's go to the long shot. And let's render. Oh, come on, really? Get off of there. There we go. All right, so that's kind of roughed in there. There's a few little things I'd want to go back and fix. But the nice thing about mesh lights at night is they are positioned more or less already for you. It's the other lights that you need to work on. You know, especially for the Zen garden, got that back upper building light, you got the lower tree light behind the camera, and then you got the two fill lights on either side of the trellis here. Yeah, I got a couple little shadow wiggles there, some shadow differences. What I would do is turn on my denoiser, do a quick area of those shadows, see what it looks like with that noise removed. Hopefully it cleans it up a little bit. And then if I need to, I'll go back and tweak one or two of the lights. All right, does that make sense? The workflow? Questions? All right, questions in Zoom? You guys doing all right? Everybody still with me?
I'm good.
All right. Thank you, Julio. AJ, Gaetano, Lanika, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. No questions.
Okay, good enough. All good. All right. So like I said, key to the mesh lights, don't forget turn on light visible, because by default, they are not visible. It's whoever did this is evil. Because really, why would you want a mesh light if you can't see it? It's the whole idea. You've got an interesting shape. You make it a light. You want it to be visible. Okay. So let's see. We ran over a little and not totally horrible like usual. So let's come back at, see, it'll be 5:10 when we get out of here. So come back to lab at 6:10. Have a great weekend, and I will see you guys on Monday. We're going to start materials on Monday. Yes. Okay, let me end this, and then we can talk about that after. All right, yeah, no problem, Gaetano. All right, so I will see you guys back here at 6:10.